You didn't build a house, you built a cage. And every month you pay rent to stay inside it. The car in the driveway, the furniture bought in installments, the credit card that covers last month's life while this month's salary covers nothing else. Every single one of those things came with a price tag you saw and a chain you didn't. Here's what nobody tells you about debt. It doesn't feel like a trap when you walk in. It feels like arrival, like proof, like you finally made it. The house looks like success. The car sounds like success. Your credit score, that mysterious number that decides whether the system accepts you or rejects you, is quietly being used to measure how obedient a borrower you are, not how financially powerful, how obedient. And the cruelest part, you paid for the bars yourself. The average American carries roughly $22,000 in non-mortgage debt, and every single month that number sits on your life, it's doing something you probably never calculated. It's stealing your ability to say no. Not no to purchases, no to a bad boss, no to a city you hate, no to a life that doesn't fit. Debt isn't just a financial number, it's a behavioral leash. And the moment you understand that, really understand it, every future purchase looks completely different. At the end of this video, I'm going to walk you through what I call the three-phase escape plan, a specific sequence for converting your current debt into something the financial industry genuinely doesn't want you to understand. Capital that works for you instead of against you. But first, you need to see the cage you're actually in, because most people trying to manage their debt are doing it from inside the wrong conversation. There's a philosopher who was born a literal slave. His name was Epictetus. He owned nothing, was controlled by someone else entirely, and yet he wrote about freedom with more clarity than most millionaires I've read. Here's what he understood that the modern credit industry would prefer you never discover. Freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it. Now apply that to your balance sheet. Your debt-to-income ratio, that financial metric banks quietly use to assess how much of your life is already spoken for, isn't just a number. It's a direct measurement of how many of your future hours are already pre-sold. A debt-to-income ratio above 43% means more than 4 out of every $10 you earn this month were spent before you woke up this morning. That's not financial management, that's forward selling your own labor. Here's where it gets truly expensive. Let's say you finance a $35,000 car over 72 months at a standard interest rate. By the end of that term, you've paid closer to $44,000, and the car is worth less than half of what you originally financed. But that's not the real cost. The real cost is the opportunity that money never got to become. $44,000 invested in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, left alone for 20 years at historical average returns, becomes somewhere between $280,000 and $340,000. You didn't buy a car. You sold $250,000 of future freedom for something that depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot. Every financed purchase isn't just a payment, it's a closed door, a future you agreed not to have. And the system, the credit score optimization system, the build your credit advice, the buy now pay later infrastructure, was built specifically to make that trade feel normal, responsible, even smart. Here's the inversion most financial advice refuses to make. Minimalism isn't about poverty. Frugality isn't about deprivation. They are, when applied with precision, the most aggressive wealth-building strategies available to someone without inherited capital. The wealthiest person in the room is rarely the most visibly expensive one. The person who bought the used car with cash, who lives in the house they can afford without leverage, who has a debt-to-income ratio below 15%, that person has something the person with the $80,000 truck and the $500,000 mortgage doesn't. The power to say no. And the power to say no is worth more than any asset you can finance. When your employer treats you wrong and you have no debt, you can leave. When a better opportunity appears in a different city and you have no obligations, you can go. When the market crashes and everyone is panic selling and you have savings, you can buy. Debt doesn't just cost money, it costs options, and options are what freedom is actually made of. But here's where it becomes a closed loop that's very hard to see from inside it. The credit score system is, at its core, a mechanism that rewards continued participation in debt. It doesn't reward saving, doesn't reward investing, doesn't reward cash reserves. It rewards borrowing responsibly, meaning it rewards giving the system a perpetual claim on your future income. You are incentivized to carry a small, manageable balance, to keep accounts open, to use credit even when you don't need to. Because if you stop, if you become genuinely debt-free, your credit score begins to erode the thing it was supposedly rewarding you to build. The system doesn't want you free, it wants you managed. And most people who arrive at this realization feel something close to despair, because the math seems impossible from where they're standing. How do you escape a system when every tool available to you is owned by the system you're trying to escape? How do you build real wealth-building habits when your entire monthly cash flow is already pre-allocated to debt servicing? This is the exact point where 90% of people stop. Not because the math is impossible, because they're trying to solve a financial problem with financial tools when the actual problem is philosophical. Epictetus was a slave. He had no money, no property, no political power. And he identified the only door that was always open. Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. Applied to personal finance, this isn't passive, it's radical. It means that elite frugality, living at a standard your income can support without borrowing, isn't a sacrifice. It's the reclamation of the one thing debt permanently borrows, your future self's choices. When your lifestyle costs less than your income, silently and consistently, something happens that the financial industry has no product for. You become unmanipulable. No upsell reaches you, no luxury car ad moves you, no limited time financing offer finds a foothold, because the desire that those things feed, the need for external validation, for status signaling, for proof that you've arrived, has been surgically removed from your financial decision-making. That silence, the silence of a zero balance, a robust savings account, a debt-to-income ratio that borders on zero, is the most expensive sound in the world. And you cannot buy it on credit. So here's the three-phase escape plan. Phase 1, diagnosis. Calculate your real debt-to-income ratio, not the version banks use, the complete version. Every recurring obligation divided by every dollar of monthly income. If that number is above 35%, you're currently renting your own freedom back from creditors. Phase 2, surgical elimination. Stop optimizing debt, start eliminating it. Pick your highest interest debt, typically credit cards carrying 29% APR, and treat every discretionary dollar as a weapon against it. Not a budget, a siege. This isn't about lifestyle restriction forever. It's about breaking the compound interest that is actively working against your retirement planning, your economic sovereignty, your options. Phase 3, capital conversion. The moment your minimum monthly debt payments drop below 10% of your income, redirect that freed capital toward assets that compound in your direction. Low-cost index funds, retirement accounts maximized before discretionary spending. A savings account that gives you 6-12 months of expenses, not as a safety net, but as the foundation of your ability to say no. This is not a 30-day transformation, it's a 36-month one, but it starts with a single decision that has nothing to do with money. It starts with deciding that the cage isn't worth what you've been paying for it. Here's the question nobody who builds this asks at the end. Once you've eliminated your debt, reduced your debt-to-income ratio to near zero, and begun converting your income into actual assets, what do you do with the power to say no? Because that's the thing about getting financially free. The money is almost a side effect. What you actually recover is something that was quietly being spent, month by month, payment by payment, the one resource that no credit score can measure, no bank can lend, and no interest rate can compound. Your ability to choose. Subscribe, because what comes next is the part most financial channels won't touch.